installed a new type of blaster, and we're able to see a significant improvement. On our blaster, we do see that we have one spike in downtime. And when we looked at that, after installing a new blaster, we realized there's some new learning that needs to come with how fast do these components wear out. And so currently we're working on that.
Okay. Some of the greatest benefits we had, Jeff touched base on this new coil design, it involved training operators on how to install them correctly, because that was one of our biggest problems. They weren't getting installed correctly, and we were burning them up, causing 180 minutes of rebuild time from the maintenance aspect. But if you take a look here, we've actually got operators. I got maintenance guys working directly with operators and teaching them about their wear rings on the CGs and what to look for during the wheel change. But they're working together. They're working together as a team, which is one thing we haven't seen. We're all headed for the same goals. So standardize and sustain. So what we've done is we've got pit stops and pre-meetings on a standard schedule. All 3 shifts throughout the company. Day swing, Greg. Maintenance teams are assigned to each shift that organize each event. I've got standardized TPM checklist, which is the operator instruction sheets. So I got a couple of those you guys can look at. Weekly review of call history, which has been rare at US Athletic. No one was talking about the dispatch events other than maintenance, looking at them. So now we're able to talk what happened the week before. And standard tool carts for the event, which are job specific and team specific, such as you see this guy's cleaning lights. They actually got a cart set up to focus just on when it's time to clean the lights in the air. We get them cleaned and tools that are in place for it.
And so as far as Yoga Tent goes, one of the positive experiences that came out of this is we now have, through word of mouth or through just the experience that have happened, 13 of the 15 factories are doing it, plus 2 additional factories of the non-production factory, or the non-targeted factories, which will be supporting factories. carbide prep and testing. And current work with other supporting factories is happening to create a pit stop or a TPM event in their factories as well.
Such as CPM, EDM, areas that are more like batch equipment process. There's our team members that were all involved. A lot of work from production side and the maintenance teams organizing. A lot of cases I had 4 different teams that we had to align and get to these events. And we're done. Go long.
6:28.
Too long. What you got, Ricky?
Right.
An extra sheet, one of those. Steve, you hand me one.
Are you on?
I want some paper for feedback. Yeah, I got one.
Okay, first of all, I need to learn how to say my last name. Right off the bat. Dennis.
And we're out. So an introduction.
Introduction.
Is it pretty typical to do an introduction, right?
Yeah. So the good things, yeah, great introduction. What I would say is
I'm so and so. Here's my title. I'm so and so. Here's my title. Very quick.
and good thing to learn from the good part here is that when you do it together as a team. See, for one person telling a story, but 2 people tell their story is more powerful. To go back and forth, so you can kind of see just the dynamics of being a little bit longer, but better support.
I like that too.
I really like how this was tied into like lean. It wasn't necessarily just the pit stop and the value of it. It was more when we talk about the lean house. That's like the first base. How strong that really applies to it. So I thought it was a good tie-in.
I don't know if it was just me, but when you started talking about your problem statement, it wasn't really clear why we decided to start working on this. I know when you start working on it, one day we said we want to have GPS system in every factory. What made us decide to work on that? That's kind of like my question, you know. It was not very clear for me. I don't know if we want to go into that or not, but.
So
But it's kind of obvious that you want that system in every factory. I understand that, you know, it's the benefit of it is huge. But why they start working on this now?
Could you add verbiage to the problem statement that refers to the lean? Okay, so you've got the US as lean house up there, and what you're really identifying the problem statement is we have an absence of this foundational principle, right? So the standard, you're saying the standard is to have a TPM program. First of all, TPM, that acronym, not everybody's gonna know what TPM is, so spell it out.
Okay.
A joint ownership of machinery from operators and maintenance, right? Not everybody's gonna even understand, even TPM, what? But if you could connect the TPM to the principle in the lean house, the standard is to have all the principles of the lean house incorporated into our business or something. And currently, we're missing this foundational component. I don't know how you reword that, but I think you got it most of the way.
I think we can address that, just in understanding the circumstances. Because right now, the problem statement is clear, precise, it's measurable. If we actually had that in there and we took it out
Okay.
because
To clarify it.
because it used to say the standard is to have this, and right now we don't, but I
But
think
if
we
you
can do a
use-
better job explaining that and understanding the circumstance.
What if you start with, as of May 2013, none of the factories have this, and then you said the standard is to have that?
Say that again?
Just the,
Rephrase it.
yeah, just rephrase it, just the,
As of May 13th.
put the standard at the end of the problem statement, not at the beginning. You start with the standard on the problem statement. I don't know if that will make a difference.
We'll
You
let
put
you
it at the
guys-
end of the problem statement, not at the beginning.
Okay.
You start with the gap, and then you explain the standard. Which the gap is, we don't have a TPM system, right? The standard is, we have to have. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so these are always funny problem statements, because if I look at that, is the solution in the problem statement? Is my solution in my problem statement here?
It is, because this is essentially a
Okay,
standardized,
so
this is essentially a standardized
yeah.
two-check act.
So when you put that in, the way I look at that, and I said, oh, well, they already know their solution, it's put a TPM program in place. And it showed when you went to understanding circumstances, because you really didn't go and understand the circumstances of the factories. You just made the linkage why it's important to have TPM, but not understanding what is the circumstances of current condition regarding TPM. So did I go to the factories, did they have no elements of TPM? Do they have parts of elements of TPM? So it's, the thing is, when you talk results, what was the results? Was it the program in place?
Yes.
Or was it that people are getting better on operation availability? Or they're having less downtime?
In this case, the result was to get it implemented in factories, to get the program in it.
Click one slide.
For those reasons, why TPM?
There's the
right?
results.
Yeah.
If you go one more slide, there was additional wins, what we called it. Yes. But
Yeah, but those are just bonuses that come out of having the program.
the reality is, the reason we do it is for improved OA.
Good, so what's your real problem then?
A real problem, we're not saying the problem statement is not improve OA. Because if I were to do a problem statement on I'm gonna improve OA, TPM may not be what my solution is.
You're correct?
And this is part of the challenge of saying,
I don't-
and we've been over this
Yeah.
a bunch,
We've been-
but we beat this to death, but the simple fact is, we don't have one of the elements that Lean House says to have in place. And that is you either have it or you don't. So the other way is working backwards, saying, I have a gap, right? And you're right, it is funny, but I'm not sure how we improve it.
So
You
then-
say, I have a gap, and the gap is OA, so therefore I do this problem solving. Or you can say, look, the lean house that we build, that we model ourselves after, says, put these things in place to deliver value, and we don't have any of that. So maybe have you seen any like that up there? Competition?
Well, we have, the thing is why I say that is I've seen it like this, and they don't, they're not very, they're not graded very well. Because I've seen other ones, and the example is there was a company last year that went up there and said, okay, my problem is that we don't have level load. Okay, and we know that level load is part of the house.
Yep.
And so they said, well, our problem is we don't have level load, we're gonna put level loading in. And so they went through it and they put level load in, but it just didn't, it's kind of a funny feel when you try to speak that way. It's like, oh, we don't have 5S, that's my problem, create 5S. Really, if you look at the other way and say, what is my problem? How can I use these lean methodologies to implement within them? Not all of them.
That's fair enough, yeah.
And that's just why, because when you presented it, looked to me that you were focused more on the additional wins instead of actually the implementation of the program. That's what it's, and that's why I was like, okay, where's the transition? It was like a lot of additional wins, but what was the win when it came to your problem and your solution? So I don't know how.
Yeah, I had a question that falls into those same languages. What value, we say YTPM, but at the end of the day, it's what value to either the business or to the customer did we increase or enhance, or is it on-time delivery, is it on target, is it cost, is it flow time, what is it? We never linked back to that. That'll be something that our executive team will absolutely be keen on. So somehow we've got to weave that in there and say, this is what we get out of this. And that probably will help us guide back to the problem statement and say, this is what we were missing as well. But it is it's a hard one because nowhere, Sione, did we say, OA is a problem, because in fact, I wouldn't even approach it that way, because we're trying to get maintenance connected into the external customer and the external business values. OA in and of itself is, why do you need OA, right? You need it for flow time, on-time delivery, for quality.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard, it's kind of but I agree, if you have I didn't actually see that before, but if you have your solution right in your problem statement, what's a different approach?
So if I think back, Jeff asked me, Barry, why did we start, right? What got us going here? And it was right around that time with the bonding coils that the maintenance team was just, we were replacing bonding coils like crazy, burning them up left and right. We tried to implement standard TPM checklists. Hey, let's try this, and everybody's got to sign off on it, initial this when they're done. And we tried that, we tried training, and we just wasn't getting traction. I remember I sent an email to everybody saying, guys, here is your factory numbers, right? Here is your down calls, here is your minutes for bonding coils, and what can we do to fix this? And it was a week after when me and you went to lunch, we said, let's set up a program and start teaching this stuff, right? Start teaching these problems to operators.
So these are fine. A lot of times, this type of problem statement you'll see in what they say as an A3 strategy. You see this type of problem statement a lot of times like an A3 strategy deployment type of thing, not necessarily kind of the PDCA methodology that we're talking about for the Kaizen fair. Not necessarily, because you'll see a lot of these are saying, we don't have a culture of enabled people. Okay, well, the solution is to create that culture, but it's more formatted in an A3 strategy instead of the traditional PDCA thought that we go through. So this is not a wrong approach, but for presenting this type of thing, maybe it's not really following what they're looking for, I would say. Could you reword it to make it? You possibly could.
What if the gap was just the link between maintenance and operations?
Oh, we know it is.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to, I guess that's what we're trying
But
to show.
that's the same
there.
thing.
Yeah.
I guess we're just jumping
That's
to
the
it.
identical
Yeah.
thing.
You just worded it.
Yeah.
No, I like what they just said, you know, because the way you explain it, when we start thinking about why are we missing, right? Why we have these repeated problem over and over again, right? And we're not doing anything about it. We're not doing any proactive work to prevent that, right? So you said we have a problem with the bonder, and that ultimately you can link that to on-time delivery, right? You can link that to any of the values that we have over there. You say because of this problem, you know, we started this PDCA that, you know, it took us to, we don't have a system to prevent this type of failures on our process or something. And its original was a TPM system where it'll help us to prevent or to maintain our machine at a certain level that this won't happen again.
Teach these. That would take the solution out of the problem statement.
But it still comes back to, I already have a solution without PDCA, and I'm gonna implement a solution. It still comes back to, all we're doing is, I don't have
You're just
level load,
pushing
so
it
I'm gonna
back.
level load.
That's
Yeah,
what we're,
that's true,
that's
but
what
at
it
least, that way, at least you
Without a
can find a
PDCA,
gap in your,
no
within
standard
your
in place.
system, and say, because I don't have this, it's preventing me from delivering on time, or whatever it is.
But then, that still doesn't fall in line with what Siona's saying. It's not the traditional PDCA methodology. It's, I have a solution, I'm gonna implement it, hope it works.
well, if you were saying, true, it kind of does go back to that, because even if you had ultimate data that said, look, Sonoma's consuming 4,800 bonder coils in 6 months, right? And the impact is OA, which is impacting on-time delivery and cost, right? On-time delivery cost. So that, even if you did that, you do your fishbone diagram, and you go back and say, what is it we're missing? Well, we're missing skill levels, we're missing communication, we're missing machine design, you know, designs out failure. We're missing the ability to improve. Operator intervention, is it bad, is it good? And then you obviously in there go, it's kind of weird because you go, oh, well look, we're missing the whole principle of TPM, the whole Toyota, the whole U.S. synthetic house. I don't know. I mean, it's the same thing, right? It ends up being we recognize that
So the TPM was a solution?
the TPM becomes the solution.
Solution, but how did you get to that solution?
Yeah, how do we get to that solution?
So that's part of it.
It was, we're having a problem with the bonders, and then it just, you basically opens your eyes and say, we don't have this in place. We've got to get this in place, not just to solve the bonder problem, but to solve every problem.
So would we end up in a better circumstance, Tony, based on your experience up there, is if you let off with the bonder problem, expanded to the absence of the principle, or do it this way and just say, look, we recognize the absence of the principle and we implement it.
So I would say.
One doesn't have PDCA in it, one
Kind of does.
But even the one that kind of does, it still has the solution from the beginning. And the solution isn't targeted at the bonder only, the solution is targeted as, it should help
Yeah.
OA overall.
So right now, there isn't, I mean, right now, you shouldn't go back and try to create a different problem statement. Because it's just what it is. You can tweak the problem statement and present it how it is, but don't go back and try to create another problem and say, well, really the problem was it was a bonder. Because now what is do you have all the information and data when it came to understanding the circumstances?
Yeah.
Did you create a fishbone diagram specifically on the bonder to say what is the cause of the
Yeah,
problem?
and so no matter what we do, we didn't do that. Therefore, no matter how we do it, we're not gonna be, because even if I did create a fishbone on the bonder, one of the most expensive and hardest thing to do would be create a TPM program for US synthetic as opposed to, let's fix just the bonder.
Yeah, so you wouldn't go that way.
Yeah.
Because it would just show that you already had a solution in your mind. You didn't do the TPM, not actually fixing the OA on bonder.
What is the statement, maintenance and operations see TPM differently?
So from maintenance perspective, I look at on-time PM percentage, right, OA number, stuff like that. You guys look at, as my machine runner, I got 1,000 parts that I gotta get this week, so I don't care about your on-time PM percentage. I guess that's kind of what.
Yeah, all I care about is delivery.
My
Does it
machine's
run?
running right now, so.
So
Are
that's
you gonna take time to explain that though?
so that's good, understanding circumstances, not the why. When you start telling me why TDM, you're just giving the reasons of the
The benefit of
solutions of
it,
why
yeah.
you're gonna do that, but it's really, what is the circumstance, and you just explain